Hey, so I'm back in my hometown right now, Victoria, BC, Canada, and just on my way to my dad's house to go visit him. I haven't seen him in 7 months, or 8 months, no, 7 months. I figured, well, I'm going to be making videos in Victoria as well, and writing blog articles, but I figured my first video might as well be about reverse culture shock. So that's the negative experiences that someone has when they return back to their home after being in a different country, whether they're traveling or just working abroad. Nowadays, I mean, this time I'm not really going to experience much reverse culture shock, and that's only because I'm so used to coming home. I know what it feels like. I know that there isn't really much to worry about. But the first time, it was actually, I'd say, the most difficult part of my whole trip. Was just getting used to being back at home. The main issue, well, there's a lot of different issues, but they all really boil down to the fact that when you're traveling, everything is just so much more exciting. And you get used to a higher level of stimulation on a day-to-day basis. Almost whether you choose that or not. All kinds of things will give you more stimulation, like new food. You're going, especially if you're in a developing country, you're going to be going out to eat all the time because it's so cheap. Exploring new places. You're constantly meeting new people, but also like really unique people. And in this video, I'll be giving you some tips that I actually use to deal with this, deal with reverse culture shock, and deal with the fact that life is so much less stimulating. The first recommendation that I'm going to make is how to deal with the fact that you're meeting so much less people, or you're not meeting so many really unique, interesting people. First suggestion I'm going to make is, rather than trying to meet a whole bunch of different people in your hometown, which you can do if you go to the right kind of events, you're at the right kind of parties, you can do that. But it isn't quite the same to meet someone from your home country as it is to meet a farmer in the middle of Ethiopia, right? Or to meet a fisherman in the middle of Bolivia. So what I'm going to suggest is, rather than trying to, meet hundreds or thousands of different people in your hometown, my recommendation is to double down on the positive relationships you already have. So to actually really commit to spending time with the people who you actually care about, who want the best for you, or you want the best for them. And maybe instead of meeting more people, it's a better idea to actually cut people out who aren't a positive impact on your life. So that's going to be my first recommendation, is double down on the positive relationships you already have back home. One thing that can be interesting is you're going to be surprised, well, at least in my experience, I've always been surprised with who I really connect with when I come back home and who I don't. But that's a side issue. Well, anyways, the next suggestion is double down on your work. You want to concentrate on things that really require a lot of effort and discipline. So your job, gym, any side hustle, a business that you're trying to build, this, in my experience, is really the best way to deal with the symptoms of boredom or even a lack of stimulation. If you're bored, then get some work done, right? Nothing can really, that actually alleviates symptoms of boredom better than going and trying something new. Trying something new, kind of, it's more of a band-aid solution. It's not quite as deep as, you know, grinding on some difficult project. The next suggestion I'm going to give is get into nature, or even better, get into the wilderness. Like not just, I mean, a city park is great if that's your best option. Sometimes you only have an hour, right? So you don't have time to drive into the middle of nowhere. But if you do have time, you have a couple days off. I mean, I'm blessed because I'm from British Columbia, Canada. And of course, I mean, it doesn't really, if you've ever been here, you know, it doesn't take very long to drive into the middle of nowhere, right? It might only take, you know, there's actually 2 small mountains in the city. And if I have 4 hours, I can drive to Strathcona National Park, and you know, that if you've ever been there, it's absolutely incredible. It's just endless wilderness there. If you're from somewhere else where it's a little bit more difficult to get into nature, just do the best you can. Try to find somewhere where you can really explore. And of course, this will stimulate you. It's some good exercise, and it'll, you know, give you a break from all the stresses of ordinary life. And speaking of the stresses of ordinary life, that is another thing that can contribute to reverse culture shock, which is the reality. Oh, look at this. This is going to be loud. 1 second. Yeah, poor timing by me. Going right through the busy village center. I'm just going to cross the street. Yeah, this is Oak Bay Village right here. It's not the center of the city, it's the center of the suburb. So what was I getting at again? Yeah, the fact that usually most people when they travel, I have a kind of different mentality, but most people when they travel, they completely neglect anything that requires any discipline. So they stop going to the gym, they stop doing their work. I mean, there are exceptions. If you run an online business and you're traveling, I mean, you're still working on, you're still, I guess, training your discipline in a sense. Or if you're learning a new language, same kind of deal. But coming home will usually require more self-discipline of you, even if you've been working on your business and going to the gym and doing all that kind of stuff. When you get back, you're probably going to have to do some stuff with your taxes and have to do some stuff with the doctor and the dentist and all this kind of boring stuff. And say you've been gone for 2 years, you come back and all this stuff accumulates when you get home, you know, all kinds of different issues. It's too hard to predict exactly what will happen, but there will be things that you've been unable to do. So it's going to be there's going to be a lot of boring tasks that you basically have to force yourself to do. All I can say to deal with this, I mean, this is obviously a very complicated issue and it's an important aspect of life. But the best thing you can do when you get home is to really embrace the discipline that's required to do all of these so-called boring activities, and to sort of see the discipline as a virtue in itself. So rather than valuing yourself, I don't know, for your abilities or your skills, seek to give yourself value and see your identity as that ability to grind through hard stuff, right? The amount of discipline you have That is your value, not how good you are at anything, not the experiences you've had. It's your ability to grind, and that is sort of the definition of your self-worth. So if you found this video interesting and helpful, I did write a blog post on this topic, which is like way longer and way more thorough and way more detailed. I put the link in the description. And also, as usual, I'll come out with a video like this at least once a week. So subscribe and hit the notification bell.